Hello, welcome. This is Sharon Massey at Stamp Side by Side, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Yesterday, I taught a class at the Warrior Transition Battalion at Fort Sam Houston and made this card with them. And I had a special request that I make a blog showing how I did it so they could remember. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to take a little break from the Christmas cards and do a really nice fall card. So I'm going to be using Colorful Seasons. This came out last year. Excuse me. If you didn't get a chance to order or haven't, it is still in our catalog. And it is really wonderful. You can do fall, you've got snowflakes for winter, you've got flowers for spring. An extremely versatile set. And it's got a bundle, it's got framelits that go with it. And it's not a bundle anymore, so you can't save the 10%. But you can still get this great stamp set and the coordinating dies. Now we're not actually going to use any of the dies today. This is an old technique. This is called Joseph's Coat technique. And so what I'm going to do is be teaching basically how to do this technique. So I'm going to set this aside. You're going to need a piece of Early Espresso. This measures 8.5 by 5.5 and again scored at the 4 1/4 to make a standard A2 card. You're going to need a piece of our new Mango Melody. I love this color. It measures 5 1/4 by 4. You're going to need a piece of Very Vanilla for the inside of your card. This is measured at 5 by 3 3/4. And then finally you're going to need this piece, this Whisper White, and it is 4.5 by 3.5. And that's the piece that we're going to be working on because this is where your focal image is going to be created. So what you want to do first is you want to pick out the fall colors that you want to use. And I'm going to start off with some Daffodil Delight and pop it open. And I'm going to use an ink applicator. And you could use a sponge or you could use there are different applicators. You could use that. And what you do is you just kind of pounce on here, and then on this you start off on your silicone mat and you just rub it in. And this, I think, particular ink pad is a little low. Yesterday we had 3 different Daffodil Delight pads, and the new ones were, the ink went down a lot heavier, but I kind of like the lighter one, so I really don't want to re-ink this. I do want to always go, when you're doing this technique, you always go down with your lightest color first. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to go in with this and try to ink it up as fast as I can. If I can figure out how to speed up the video, I'll do it. I just am not that tech savvy yet, so that's still a part of my learning process. You don't have to worry about this being real even. So you're going to put that aside, and then you're going to bring in your next color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Paper Pumpkin, haha, Pumpkin Pie. I have Paper Pumpkin on the brain. Can hardly wait for the new one to come out, the October one, to see what it looks like. Okay, so this is Pumpkin Pie, and again what I'm going to do is just dab and pull that color in. Now this time though, I really don't want to cover all of it. I want some of that yellow to show through. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go in on the corners and just here and there go in, but making sure that I always leave a little bit of yellow showing through. This is how we're going to get the varying colors for your leaves that you're going to be laying down. So just a little bit of that. You can decide how heavy. Yesterday, the ladies that were making this, some of them went real heavy on the orange and left very little yellow, and others left a lot of yellow. It's always up to your taste, what you enjoy doing. Oops, I just bent that. So I think I'm going to give it one more swatch here, maybe right there. Okay, so that's that one. I'll put that one aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some Old Olive. And on the Old Olive, what I'm going to do is I'm not really going to so much sponge as rather dab or streak. So this is my green, and I'm really wanting it on the edge. So I'm kind of pouncing around because really what I want to do is just kind of pounce it on here in various spots. And again, how much you want or don't want, that kind of depends on your taste. Whoops, I actually got more than I wanted, but we'll see what turns out. No two cards are going to be alike when you do this particular technique, so just be aware of that. Okay, so I've got those inks and I'm going to set them aside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my embossing buddy and I'm going to emboss this paper because I want to make sure it's dry. Yeah. Okay. The embossing buddy will remove the oils and also the where my handprints are and any of the static electricity. That way, when you are actually embossing, you don't get all the little specks that you really don't want. So give that a really good rub. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm ready to bring in my Versamark and my stamp. And this is the smallest leaf that is in the stamp set, Colorful Seasons. So you might notice my ink pad. Now, the one problem I did have is I tend to over ink on these edges. So it's a very light tap. And then I can put it up to the light and see, and maybe even kind of walk it across here to try to get. And the other thing is you just have to kind of watch. You really can't see where you're stamping. So I always have to kind of hold it up to the light to see where I've stamped. And I know I want to stamp off the edge on some of this. And in a minute, I'm going to pick this up because I have to make sure. I'm going to just hold it to the light. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm starting to see where those leaves are. And now I'm going to go back and just keep doing that. How many leaves you want, where you want them. There were some really interesting designs yesterday. One person just put the leaves all the way across here and made a diagonal line. It was a really cool effect. Put one in here. And I think I just over inked. So I'm going to take my finger and hope get some of that ink off because I think I felt myself rock when I did that. And I'm going to do one partial one up here and I'm going to call it done. So I've just stamped it up with that Versamark. For those of you that don't know, Versamark is just a really sticky ink that allows the powder to adhere to it, and then you're going to do it. I'm going to slip this onto a piece of scrap paper, and then I'm going to just take my embossing powder, and I'm just going to be very generous about it because it's all going to go back into the jar anyway. And we'll see what happens if I get it all or don't get it all. So I can kind of again, and I can see I didn't get it all, so I can just actually scoop some of this. And let's see. I think that is good. Now I can see there's some places that I really got that I didn't want to get. So I'm going to kind of do like this to tap some of that excess off. And then I'm just going to, so you don't lose any of your embossing powder, because this will really last you a long time, you just pour that right back into the jar. And then we can set that aside. Now we're going to heat set. It's always a good idea to let your heat tool heat up for a while before you actually do it. And I'm also, another thing that I'd like to do is I want to use a pair of tweezers. We used to carry these and we don't anymore, and I use them a lot. I'm sure you can get them probably at Hobby Lobby or some other place, but I don't want to burn my hand. So I'm going to hold it like this, and now I'll heat emboss. I can tell that it's going. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to shine it where y'all can see it in the light. But the embossed leaves are turning very shiny. And what I'm doing now is going back because I'm looking to see where the shiny, like I missed half of the leaf right there. So, okay, I think we're good. I'm sorry, talking while that's there. I hope you could hear me. I'll have to figure out how to do the video a little differently so that I can speed these things up. That'll be my next goal. So now I'm going to come in, and once again, I'm going to come in with ink, but this time I'm using Early Espresso. And I'm going to go in, and this is where, as people say, the magic starts happening. So you go in, how much you cover, how dark you want it, is totally up to you. So I'm now going to go in. Some people left it very light so that some of the orange peeked through, and other people made it just totally saturated with the dark color. All of that, again, personal taste, and that's what makes it fun. Everybody's different. They all have different ideas of what it should look like. And I always, anytime I teach a class, I learned so much from watching other people. They did some really cool things yesterday. One of the things that they did is that on the inside of the card, they embossed leaves along one edge, and then colored it like we're doing now, and it was just really pretty on the inside. I'm not going to take the time to do that on this video. My main job is just to remind them how to do this. That's what they asked for, so that is what I'm doing. I'm just sorry. Here's another leaf. Sometimes I surprise myself. I forget where I put those leaves. And I'm just going to keep dragging that in. The nice thing about these mats are that you can pull in this ink that's on the side when you do it like this. You just grab that ink and pull it in, so you're not wasting any of your ink. And I think I want mine just a little darker. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. Now, that looks pretty okay that way, but wait till you see what happens next. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this ink out of the way, because if I don't, I'll have it all over me. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm even going to move this, set it aside. And now I'm going to take a piece of paper towel, and I am just going to rub. And what I'm doing is I'm getting the excess ink off of the embossing, because the embossing doesn't hold on to it like the paper does. And so I'm really going to give it a good rub. And you can kind of see that these flowers are starting to pop out. Flowers. Sorry. These leaves are starting to really pop out. So again, this is called Joseph's Coat. There are other names for this. It's a technique that's been around for a really long time. Now, I could go in and add more color if I want to, but just, more brown. But I think for the sake of time, what we're going to do is we're going to call this good. Now, I have pre-stamped my piece of melon mango. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call it that. It's Mango Melody. And we're just going to pop that on. Woo-hoo. And it's going to be up and above. And again, it's always, when you're using a camera, it's always interesting to try to get it straight when you can't get right over it. Okay, and now that's ready to go on my card base. Now, I used, they're actually not available anymore, but I can give you some alternatives. I'm going to use some of these to put on here to kind of, again, I love to put these, gives it a special look. I think it finishes it off nicely. So kind of, whoops, center that. I didn't do any centering there. Like so. And now you're ready to put your Very Vanilla in. And all you need to do is stamp your whatever verse you want on it. There's some really nice ones. The one in the stamp set that I'll be using is Life is a Beautiful Thing, and I'll stamp it in here. And then I will probably put some leaves along the side to dress it up. But in the interest of time, I just wanted to show you this technique and hope that you enjoy it. I think it makes a nice, and it's really a pretty fast card. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, this is Sharon Massey at Stamped Side by Side. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And don't forget to subscribe to my blog at www.stampsidebyside. Remember, anytime you are a member of the people that subscribe, that group, they're always put into a drawing for every month, and sometimes it's a very small thing, sometimes it's better. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, please feel free to email me. I'd love to help you, and if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye.